All right, today we're jumping into a truly unforgettable journey through 1 Peter chapter 4, and it all kicks off with this one urgent command that sets the tone for everything. It's time to arm your mind. Let's get into it. So our first stop on this journey is all about forging a new way of thinking. A resilient mindset that allows us to make a clean, decisive break from the person we used to be. Okay, verse 1 starts with this powerful command to arm yourselves. I want you to really picture this. You are physically putting on a shining warrior's helmet. You feel it click into place. And right across the front, in bold letters, it says Christ's mindset. This isn't just some nice idea, it's your ultimate defense. Now, with that helmet on, verse 2 presents a clear choice. Imagine yourself standing at a crossroads. One path is just pure chaos, right? It's loud, it leads to a wild party. That's the old life. But you deliberately turn your back on it. You choose the other path, a clear, sunlit road with a sign that says God's will. Verse 3 is all about finality. Peter is basically saying enough is enough. So the image here is you standing in front of a huge, heavy door labeled the past. You can hear the noise from that old life behind it, and you just firmly slam it shut and slide a massive bolt across. Done. So what happens next, right? Verse 4 shows the reaction from the world. Picture yourself standing on solid dry ground, and rushing past you is this muddy, chaotic river. That's the flood of dissipation Peter talks about. And in that current, you see your old friends, and they're looking back at you, not with curiosity, but with angry confusion. They just don't get why you're not in the mud with them anymore. Then, verse 5 just dramatically shifts the perspective. The image zooms out. Suddenly, a massive, ancient ledger book opens up in the sky, and before a cosmic judge, every single action is being recorded. It's this powerful reminder that their judgment of you, well, it isn't the final one. Verse 6 can be a little tricky, so let's lock in a clear visual. Imagine a brilliant beam of light, the gospel, piercing through a shadowy realm. This light isn't just for show, it's revealing a spiritual path forward, showing that God's plan and mercy extend farther than we can even imagine. Okay, let's move on to the next stage. We've armed our minds, so now the focus shifts. We go from our internal thoughts to our external actions. How are we supposed to live with purpose, especially knowing what we now know? Verse 7 hits us with this sense of urgency. The end of all things is at hand. The mental picture for this has to be a watchtower guard. It's dawn, he's laser-focused, serious, and he's scanning the horizon. That kind of intense, watchful alertness, that's how our prayers should be. Verse 8 gives us this absolutely beautiful picture of love's power. Just see this in your mind's eye. There's a messy pile of dark, jagged rocks. And then a beautiful, warm, glowing quilt is gently draped over them, completely covering every sharp edge. That's what fervent love does. Now, verse 9 gets super practical. How do we picture this? Easy. Imagine a person holding their front door wide open with a huge, genuine smile. Above their head, there's a little thought bubble with a grumpy face in it. And then it just gets popped, like a balloon. That's hospitality without the inner complaint. Verse 10 is all about our gifts. So picture a whole group of people, and every single one is holding a uniquely shaped, glowing gift box. But here's the key. They aren't hoarding them. They're opening them and sharing the light inside with each other. They're ministering. Verse 11 is a two-parter with two amazing images. First, if you speak, picture your words coming out like solid gold coins, valuable, true, weighty. Then, if you serve, imagine that as you go to lift a burden, these invisible, powerful hands of light appear and help you. It's not your strength, it's God's. All right, we're now entering the most challenging part of our journey. We're going to talk about facing hardship, the fiery trial. But not as a victim. No, as a participant in something so much greater. Verse 12 warns us about this fiery trial, but it says, don't think it's strange. So don't picture a random house fire. The image you want to hold on to is a blacksmith's forge. The fire there isn't an accident. It's a deliberate, necessary tool used to shape and strengthen. And that forge image leads us to the wild command in verse 13, rejoice. How? Picture a person walking through those flames, but their face is filled with joy. Why? Because their eyes are locked on a brilliant, glorious light waiting for them at the end of that fiery path. For verse 14, Imagine harsh words and insults flying through the air like sharp arrows, headed right for you. But just before they hit, they transform into soft, harmless feathers and just fall to the ground. That's because you're covered in this gentle, protective shimmer, the spirit of glory. But, and this is so important, Peter gets very specific in verse 15. He gives a sharp warning so we don't get confused. There is a world of difference between suffering for your faith and just suffering the consequences of being a jerk. He's like, look, don't suffer as a murderer or a thief or a busybody. That's not the kind of suffering he's talking about. But by contrast, verse 16 gives us this powerful image. A person is standing in a spotlight. The accusation being thrown at them is simply, you're a Christian. And instead of cowering in shame, they stand up tall and let their inner light shine even brighter. And so, we've arrived at the final leg of our journey. This section really brings it all home, focusing on the ultimate reality of judgment and the incredible power that comes from absolute, total trust. Verse 17 gives us a really startling image. I want you to visualize a purifying wave of light, and that light is judgment. But look where it starts. It begins inside a church, the house of God. It cleanses from the inside out. And then, in verse 18, Peter asks this heavy rhetorical question that's meant to make us all just pause for a second. If even the righteous are saved by the skin of their teeth, what's going to happen to those who don't follow God? After everything, the new mind, the purposeful life, the fiery trials, verse 19 gives us our final instruction, and it's a beautiful one. The image is simple. It's a person, while still doing good in the world, gently taking their own soul, picture it like a glowing orb of light, and placing it into the vast, safe, powerful hands of a faithful Creator. So as our journey through 1 Peter 4 comes to a close, the last question isn't just about what you learned or what you pictured in your head. The real question is, what will you do? What's one practical, good thing you can do this week to live out that final image of entrusting your life to Him?